Imagine being trapped in the mud of northern France in 1916. You're freezing, you're eating stale bread, and your government is paying you the equivalent of a few pennies a day to be there. You're living in the ultimate rigged economy. You're surrounded by absolute chaos and destruction, and survival is your only real objective. But while most men were just trying to survive the nightmare of the front lines, a select few realized they were sitting on a gold mine. They looked around the trenches and saw thousands of tons of spent artillery shells, empty brass bullet casings, and downed aircraft aluminum. To the government, it was garbage. To the military commanders, it was just the debris of war. But to these men, it was free inventory. Using nothing but pocket knives, rocks, and infinite boredom, these soldiers started engraving the brass. They turned spent 75mm artillery shells into intricate, highly polished lamps. They turned discarded casings into high-end lighters, engraved rings, and ornate matchboxes, and they sold them to wealthy officers and civilians back home for massive profits. They invented a financial concept that I call infinite arbitrage. Today we call it trench art. But looking back, it wasn't just art, it was a masterclass in how to beat a broken system. They took a raw material that cost exactly $0, applied a specialized skill, and created a luxury asset with a 100% profit margin. And here's why this matters to you right now. In 2026, we are fighting our own invisible economic war. Inflation is eating your paycheck, the cost of living is suffocating the middle class, and the standard path to wealth is completely blocked. But just like those soldiers in 1916, you are surrounded by highly valuable trash. You just don't know how to look at it yet. Today, we are going to break down the economics of trench art. We are going to expose the difference between a low-level gig, economy side hustle, and high-leverage alchemy, and I am going to show you exactly how to find the modern-day spent brass in your city, upcycle it, and build a zero-overhead business that the system cannot touch. To understand how to win in 2026, you first have to understand the exact math of what those soldiers did in 1916. You have to understand why this specific hustle breaks the fundamental rules of capitalism. Let's look at the standard business model today. If you want to start a business, you need capital. You take out a loan, you buy inventory, you pay for marketing, you rent a commercial storefront, and you hire employees. You take on massive, crushing financial risk before you make a single dollar. The trench art economy flipped that entirely. The cost of goods sold was zero. The overhead was zero. The transportation cost was zero. The only input was time and a highly specialized hyper-niche skill. This isn't just a hustle, this is alchemy. Alchemy is the ancient myth of turning lead into gold. Economically speaking, that is exactly what high leverage upcycling is. You're taking something that society has deemed worthless, lead, or in this case, spent brass. And through the application of your unique knowledge, you are transmuting it into gold. When you operate a business with zero cost of goods sold, your profit margin isn't 20%. It isn't 50%. It is infinite. You cannot go bankrupt. You cannot be liquidated. You are entirely outside the traditional financial system. But to pull this off, you have to understand the brutal difference between labor and leverage. The system today wants you to be a laborer. It is designed to keep you on a treadmill. When the average guy realizes his salary doesn't cover his rent and groceries anymore, what does he do? He downloads an app, he drives for Uber, he delivers for DoorDash, he builds IKEA furniture on TaskRabbit. The media calls this the gig economy. I call it the Patriot Trap. Just like the government in the 1940s convinced citizens to collect scrap metal for free under the guise of patriotism, Silicon Valley convinces you to destroy your own vehicle and trade your weekends for minimum wage under the guise of being your own boss. When you drive for a ride-share app, you aren't running a business. You are taking out a payday loan against the equity of your car. You are trading your most valuable asset, your time, and burning your tires, oil, and brake pads for a fixed, low wage. That is low leverage. Even the guys who think they are hustling are usually playing a low leverage game. Flipping a $50 couch on Facebook Marketplace is low leverage. You need a pickup truck, you need storage space, you have to deal with flaky buyers. You risk injuring your back, and at the end of the day, you made $40. The juice is not worth the squeeze. High leverage is different. High leverage requires a barrier to entry. It requires an intimidation factor. The modern equivalent of trench art is finding the things in our economy that terrify normal people because they look broken, complicated, or dangerous. Normal people throw away complexity. Alchemists buy it for pennies. So, what does trench art look like in 2026? What is our spent brass? We aren't fighting in physical trenches, but our battlefield is littered with the casualties of an invisible economic war, failed businesses, abandoned projects, and discarded commercial machinery. Let me give you a very specific example of high-leverage physical upcycling. Right now, in every major city, small coffee shops and restaurants are going out of business. When they liquidate, they have to get rid of massive, highly complex commercial equipment. Let's look at a commercial espresso machine, a La Marzocco Linea, brand new. These cost $15,000 to $20,000. But when a cafe goes under and the machine has a blown heating element, a scaled-up boiler, or a fried computer board, it transforms from an asset into a massive liability. To a normal person, it looks like a 200-pound piece of Italian garbage. They will list it on a liquidation auction site or Facebook Marketplace for $500 just to get it out of the building so they don't lose their security deposit. This is your spent brass. You buy the dead machine for $500 because you spent 1 month watching YouTube tutorials and reading obscure coffee technician forums. You know exactly how to test a heating element with a $20 multimeter. You order the replacement part from Italy for $80. You spend a Saturday taking the machine apart, soaking the copper pipes in citric acid to remove the scale, and installing the new element. You polish the stainless steel, take high-quality studio photos, and sell that newly refurbished, fully functional commercial machine to a new coffee shop opening up across town. The sale price? $6,000. Let's do the math. Your total investment was $580. Your return is $6,000. You just made over $5,000 of pure tax advantage profit in a single weekend. You didn't do this by working harder. You did this by crossing a threshold of complexity that other people were too lazy to cross. You became an alchemist. This applies to everything. E-bikes with dead batteries that just need a $30 BMS board replaced. High-end vintage audio receivers that just need the capacitors resoldered. Specialized 3D printers and CNC machines. Find the items where the original purchase price was extremely high, the perceived complexity to fix it is terrifying, and the parts are cheap. That is where the margin lives. But we don't just have physical trash in 2026. We have digital trash. And digital trash scales infinitely. Let's talk about digital upcycling. The internet is a graveyard of abandoned dreams. Millions of people start newsletters, software as a service companies, and niche content sites. They build an audience, they write some code, they get thousands of users, and then they burn out. They get shiny object syndrome, they get a demanding new corporate job, and they abandon the project. To the founder, that dead website is a sunk cost. It is a reminder of a failed hobby that is costing them $50 a month in server fees. To you, it is an unpolished artillery shell. You can go on marketplace platforms right now, like acquire.com, and find neglected newsletters with 10,000 dormant subscribers selling for a few $1,000s. The owner just wants to recoup their costs and walk away clean. You buy the digital asset, you run the dead email list through an AI scrubbing tool to remove the spam traps and hard bounces. You use AI to generate a brutal, highly targeted re-engagement campaign to wake the audience up. You completely redesign the landing page over a weekend using a no-code builder to modernize the brand. You implement a basic monetization strategy, sponsorships, or a low-ticket digital product that the previous owner was too timid to launch. Within 30 days, that dead newsletter is generating $2,000 a month in recurring revenue. You can hold it for cash flow, or you can flip it to a media aggregator for $50,000 based on the new industry valuation multiplier. You didn't have to spend 2 years writing content into the void to build the audience. You bought the raw material for pennies, applied the specialized skill of digital monetization, and flipped it. Zero physical inventory, zero shipping costs, infinite leverage. You don't need permission to start doing this today. You don't need an LLC, you don't need a business loan, and you don't need investors. You just need to follow the execution protocol. Here is exactly how you build your own trench art empire in 2026. Step 1, identify your brass. You cannot be a generalist. The The guy who tries to flip couches, iPhones, and lawnmowers makes absolutely no money because he has no specialized knowledge. You must pick one hyper-niche category. I call this the heavy and broken rule. If an item requires 2 men to lift it and it doesn't turn on, the seller is desperate to get rid of it. Pick commercial espresso machines, pick vintage outboard boat motors. Pick dead SaaS products in the real estate niche. Pick an industry where the equipment or assets are wildly expensive brand new, and commit to knowing more about how they break than anyone else in your city. Step 2. Build your pocket knife. The WWI soldiers used whatever rudimentary tools they had to carve the brass. Your pocket knife is your specialized skill. Spend the next 30 days completely immersing yourself in the technical manuals of your chosen niche. You do not need a college degree, you need an internet connection. Hunt down the original manufacturer PDF service manuals. Watch the teardown videos on YouTube, learn how to solder circuit boards, learn how to read basic Python code. The harder the skill is to learn, the higher your profit margin will be. Complexity is your protective moat. If it's easy, everyone will do it. Step 3, the low ball sweep. You'll never find these deals by paying retail or searching casually. You have to set up automated traps, set up alert algorithms on local marketplaces, Craigslist, and specifically public surplus and restaurant liquidation auction sites for your specific keywords. Look for businesses that are closing their doors. When you see the asset listed, do not pay the asking price. Remember, the seller is selling because they are experiencing acute pain. The item is taking up expensive commercial rent space, it represents a business failure, and it is broken. Offer them speed and convenience in exchange for a massive, insulting discount. You're not buying a product, you're buying their problem. Show up with cash and a truck, and they will practically give it to you. Step 4, the alchemy and the flip. Clean it, fix it. But most importantly, document the process. The biggest mistake amateur flippers make is taking terrible, blurry photos in a dark garage. When you sell the upcycled asset, you're selling a premium, luxury product to a new buyer. Stage it perfectly. Write a description that proves you know exactly what you're talking about. Explain what broke, how you fixed it, and the parts you used. Provide a 30-day personal guarantee because you know you fixed it right. You're selling trust and peace of mind. You're not selling a used item, you're selling a restored asset. Command the premium price. The economy of 2026 is ruthless. If you rely entirely on a corporate paycheck, you're always one recession, one algorithm update, or one inflation spike away from disaster. The system wants you dependent. It wants you renting your life, driving for gig apps, and trading your irreplaceable time for depreciating fiat currency. But history proves that when the economy breaks, the people who thrive are the ones who refuse to play by the rules. The soldiers in 1916 didn't wait for the government to save them. They didn't complain about the mud. They looked at the scrap metal, they picked up a knife, and they carved their own way out. Stop driving for Uber. Stop complaining that everything is too expensive. Look around your environment. Find the broken complexity that everyone else is ignoring. Learn the skill, engrave the brass. Become the alchemist